So here we go, y'all. Let's get it going. E4, and the best opening of all time, at least according to Nakamura, the Bongcloud, King E2. Wow, what on earth is going on here? Not recommended. Okay, not recommended, but it's surprisingly playable if you know how to hold on here. I actually learned this from Nakamura. So basically, guys, after we play King E2, we're not trying to play crazy chess, breaking this game open with a move like D4 or F4, or somehow trying to sacrifice an F7. We're simply trying to hang on for dear life. Okay, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. D3, defending that pawn on E4. By the way, this is against my guy Billy, OG of the channel. He's been on, following this channel for probably at least a couple years now. He's the first that comes to mind when I think of birds opening chess. He is the bird master, without a doubt. I'm going to play C3 here. Key idea, opening up the square of C2 for my queen, which further defends the pawn on E4. Oftentimes the opponent tries to break the game open with a move like D5. Here, Billy taking the slower approach and just trying to get a solid perk defense-like game. Kind of a check perk with a Philidor idea of E5, D6, bishop E6 now. I'm going to play H3. Again, I'm trying to keep all my bases covered, right? Trying to keep my base covered from the knight and that bishop. At this point, I can continue with knight E2, further defending the pawn on E4. Queen C7 is played. Let's continue now with the move like G3. I'm going to fianchetto my bishop. And eventually look to get my king over to H2. So, okay, we finally see this move of D5, and thankfully we have our base covered on E4 by a ton of different pieces. A queen, 2 minor pieces, and our pawn on D3. We're now just going to play a move like B3, looking to fianchetto our second bishop in the Bongcloud. Okay, so we see captures back. We'll capture back that pawn on E4. Again, we play D3, we drop our queen on C2, knight on D2, and we're ready to capture back at a moment's notice. We see this move knight C5 from Billy. Gosh, the aggressive player in me is wanting to play this move B4. Gosh. Well, okay, so I want to play a move like knight F3, but then we see rook D8, and this knight can eventually come into D3. So, trying to think here. Honestly, there's a couple of different approaches. One of them is just playing a move like bishop A3, trying to get some kind of trade down. But I think what I'm going to do here is actually just try to get rid of this knight. Play B4. This is the aggressive player coming at me, just trying to make some space on the queen side. But really just get this knight out and then continue to play solid chess, all right? Get my pieces developed, get my king over to H2 eventually. At least that's the optimal goal. And then, go from there. But okay, we got knight A6. I think in that case I'll just play A3. Yeah, A3, defend that pawn on B4. Castling queenside here from Billy, nice move. I'm going to play knight F3, attacking E5, defending D2. Notice here, I'm trying to keep all my bases covered from any kind of attack from black, right? Rook D7, play bishop B2, rook D1. Okay, queen B6 is played. Let's see, king F1 could be an option. I'm actually going to go with that. King F1, see if I can get my king out alive without any kind of tactical ideas from black here. Black can throw in a move like bishop C4, without a doubt. Getting a square like D3, but, I'm just trying to get my king to safety here. We see queen check instead. In that case, I will just play king G1. King H2 on the way, connecting my rooks, which will be big for us as white here. So I'm looking at this move of queen D3 for Billy. That might be the move. Even then I can take on D3 though, and then I have, if they do play queen D3, I could take and then play bishop F1. Against rook D3, I can actually just play bishop F1, pinning the rook, to the queen on b5. And this is something that you see quite a bit. If you play solid in the Bongcloud, I'm not sitting here saying that it's a good opening, but if you just play solid, you'll be surprised to see that oftentimes the opponent doesn't have much of a choice but to kind of over push. In fact, there was a game between Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, in which case he over pushed a little bit against Nakamura. Of course, it is Nakamura, but Naroditsky over pushed, and he ended up losing to the Bongcloud as a Grandmaster player, right? So it's really not as bad as people make it out to be. It's very bad, but if you play it right, you can, basically if you play perfectly for 20 moves, I think one of my subscribers said, just play perfectly for 20 moves and then you have a fighting chance. That's pretty much what you got to do. Of course, someone like Nakamura can do that pretty much every game. We got queen b6 on the board. In that case, okay, knight takes e4 is in the air. I do want to just hold this position together and not allow any kind of crazy ideas from black. Let's see. I was going to take on a6, but that's a little bit premature here, honestly. Let's just go back. Let's just go back to a normal Bongcloud, right? That queen c2 idea, defending e4, right? And when in doubt, just put that queen on c2. Queen c7 is played, now holding on to e5. I think now I can push a little bit, play a move like c4, start to put some pressure on e5 even more. Notice that this knight can't move to anywhere but b8. I'm a little bit underdeveloped for sure, so I gotta get my bishops into the action and then get this rook into the action as well. But I'm not really sensing any kind of crazy attacking chess ideas here from black. So okay, we play bishop e2, king g2, get this rook into the action. g6 is played. That's actually a nice idea from Billy. Looking to play f5. I could play g4. I could. I really could. Decisions. You know what? I'm going to do it. Play g4, put a little bit more pressure on f5 there. We might see a move like h5 here. We'll see. We'll see what our boy Billy comes up with. And if they do play that, I can have knight h2, continuing to defend the pawn. Okay, knight f6, king up. h5, g5 is now an option, potentially. Of course, this pawn e5 is also just hanging, right? So let's just take that pawn off. Attack the queen, attack the knight. If you want to defend it, thank you for the knight. So there we go. Got ourselves a game. Yeah, let's see what we got here. So yeah, guys, again, Bongcloud chess. Okay, so you throw your pawn up to e4, you continue with a move like king e2, and then at that point, you just got to play solid chess. From the white perspective, e4, d3, and then really just try to protect that pawn on e4 as much as you can, especially with that king on e2. Don't play crazy chess. Don't try to win the game right away, but really just try to view it as just a goal to survive. All right. So okay, we see this move d4. Obviously, this prevents me from playing any kind of e5 idea. So I think I'm going to here continue with. What I could do. I could play this move c5, right? Start off with an old Benoni. I'm gonna get into, hopefully, I'm gonna get into a Bongcloud setup coming up here as I attack that pawn. But we see knight f3. I'll simply take back. Play a move like knight c6, offer up a trade. See what they do here. Let's see, bishop e5, interesting. Let's play g6. Just a quiet little move here, but I'm trying to support that e5 push. Okay, e5, and okay, we have finally reached our Bongcloud dream setup of king e7, right? Took us a while, but we finally got a pawn to e5, and then we played this move king e7. Thankfully, we have our bases covered, specifically this square on d5. The only issue is that this pawn on d6 could be a potential big issue for us. I'm going to play knight f6 here and just, put some pressure on e4. You want to do that? I'll play a move like bishop e6, offer up a trade. King takes e6 is interesting there, but pawn takes is probably just way better, honestly. Bishop b3. Let's see. I think in that case, I will go with a move such as g6 is possible for sure. I'll probably just play queen c7 though. Of course, queen c7, f4. Yeah, I mean, I actually do have to defend that pawn, right? So, okay, just like queen c2 had to be played, I got to play queen c7 here. That way, if f4 is seen, I can, continue to hold on to that pawn on e5. I may even play a move potentially like knight d7 in some cases, fighting on to that central pawn at all costs, guys. We cannot allow in the Bongcloud, we cannot allow the game to break open. If the game breaks open in the Bongcloud, you have a king leading the charge. That is not what you want, at least in the game of chess, right? So, okay, castling kingside. G5 is interesting, kind of just prevents any f4 ideas. Of course, h4 is played, h6, queen d2. I'm here for entertainment. I'm here to have fun. Let's play it. G5, trying to prevent that f4 push. I'm trying to solidify my position here with a move like h6 and then rook g8. I'd like to play bishop g7, but then really nothing else could defend that pawn except the pawn on h6, right? So I got to make sure that this g8 square is open for my rook, in a lot of cases, at least. Of course, I could play h6, knight h7 as well, and hold on to the pawn. Notice how, guys, when I push my pawn to a square like e5 or a square like g5, I'm trying to hang on to that square as long as I can. I'm not trying to just start trading off pawns, because that only makes my opponent's attacking chances that much better, right? So, okay, we see this move, queen d2. I'm going to respond to this by just the normal plan, right? Play this move h6, solidify that pawn on g5, h4. I got rook g8 ready to go. Bishop takes e6. Interesting option there from white. I could take with the king. I could do it. I could do it. Is the best move? Probably not. It's definitely not, actually. I mean, if I take with the pawn, I'm going to have d5 options ready to go. But we're here to have a good time. King takes e6. This is true Bongcloud chess, right? If you can take with the king, why not do it? So, okay, here we go. King takes e6. If I was walking past this, I'd probably think they're playing King of the Hill or something. By the way, if you haven't heard of the King of the Hill, it's actually kind of an interesting variant. I think it's probably one of the more boring ones, but it does add an interesting element. Basically, it's chess, but on top of checkmates. If your king ever touches one of these central squares, you win the game. So it does add a new element to things, particularly in the late middle game. Even opening sometimes. Can I get my king to f5? Or, can I get my king to e5 or d5 somehow? Because if I can, I win. So, it definitely adds a new element to things. h3, interesting, to say the least. It never hurts to just defend a pawn on d6, especially when you have a king all the way up on the 6th rank, literally leading the charge in this position. So, okay, we defend that pawn. Let's see, rook d1. Let's see. I could play d5. Knight h5, bishop takes e5. I don't like that. So here I got to connect my rooks. If I play a move like knight h5, bishop takes. If pawn takes, I lose my rook, right? So I got to take with the king, and that's just disastrous, right? Because this isn't King of the Hill. So I think in this case, this is one of the craziest things I've ever done in the game of chess. But I might have to freaking play bishop e7 and lock my king in on the square of e6. Bishop h2 is played. Let's see. I want to get my king over to g7, so I might have to start making a long journey back home. King d7, king e8. Okay, f4 is played. So here white trying to break the game open. I'm cool with that. I'll take. Let's see. Play d5. Takes. I have knight takes e4 options. But it is starting to look uglier and uglier by each move. Could also just check with the queen and get out of that whole bishop fire thing. Yeah. Okay, knight a4 though, interesting. So here white trying to just prevent me from any kind of checking ideas. I think in that case I'll just take on e4, attacking the queen. Okay, queen e3 is played. Let's see. Could play knight d5, but then I lose my pawn at e4, right? So let's just take that rook on d1. Let's take the pawn to 4. See if, I feel like queen, okay, queen takes f4. I was going to say bishop takes f4, I think was the best move there for black, or for white, but okay, knight d5, attacking the bishop. I think there white should at least try to hold on to attacking chances. There's really no reason that I saw for white needing to feel like they had to trade down that quick. Throwing a check, never hurts nobody. F5. See, bishop c5. Let's see, takes. Rook g2. Okay. Honestly, in this situation, the correct move, quote unquote, is probably to take the pawn, but why not just get it easier when you can do that, right? Take on d1, push up. Now we got, two passed pawns that are about to be on the third rank. So this is just winning. Now we have a checkmate 1. So there we go. Bongcloud chess, again, not as bad as it may seem. If you play perfectly for the first 20 moves. By the way, I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I'm just sitting here saying that, if you're as good as Nakamura, you can somehow beat 2,400 players with it.